Well, this week, Kathryn Thomas and Kevin Kilbane took part in an experiment for the Late Late Show whereby they experienced the challenges wheelchair users face. Have a look at this.
As soon as I wheeled onto the Lewis platform, I felt intimidated.
Before we talk to Kevin and Kathryn, we're going to meet the man who inspired this experiment. His name is Stephen Cluskey, and he joins us now. Stephen, you're welcome to the programme. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in tonight. Until you were, I think it was 18, life was pretty much straightforward and everything was going grand until what happened?
Okay, so it was the 4th of August, 2002. The weather was beautiful. The Dubs had just drawn in the All-Ireland quarter-final with Donegal, and life couldn't have been better. So I got in from the match and received a phone call from a friend to see if I wanted to go camping that night. And I thought, with the day that was in it, the weather the way it was, why not? So we arrived to this field in North County Dublin, a field I'd known well, having grown up in the area. Set the tents up and settled down. Now, not far from where the tents were, there was a round hay bale. For whatever reason, I decided to jump on top of it. And as I was sitting there, all of a sudden I felt it begin to move. I looked back and one of the friends was pushing it. So I tried to keep my balance. A couple of seconds later, I fell. Now, next came this Indiana Jones type moment, you know, when he was trying to get out of the way of the big rolling boulder.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, this wasn't a movie and I wasn't as lucky as Indy. So as I went to quickly get out of the way, I lifted my head and the rolling bale caught the back of my head, pushing it forward. And I heard a crack and everything in my body just went dead in an instant. Next I heard a bit of commotion and I asked one of the friends to lift my arm and I saw this limp, lifeless hand appear in front of my face, you know, a hand that I should have recognised as my own but didn't. And when he let go, my arm dropped to the ground with a thud and I knew something serious had happened. So I was taken to the Mater Hospital, and after what seemed like an endless amount of scans and x-rays and MRIs, the doctor came in to give me the news I'd broken my neck.
Which had what implications for you physically for the rest of your life?
Paralysed from the neck down.
You were what age?
I was 18 at the time.
You were 18?
Yeah.
It's a lot to process at any age, but obviously the younger, the more difficult it is. What is going through your mind at 18? What can you remember being told that? Were you able to fathom such an enormous diagnosis?
Yeah, look, I remember it quite well, and I'd amazing family and friends, and I still do. And, you know, the wider community, Belvedere College, and the tennis community as well. But I distinctly remember lying in bed about 8 weeks after the injury. And obviously thinking that the paralysis was going to be a huge challenge. But the mental side to this was also going to be an enormous challenge. And, you know, that could send me gaga. So I knew I had to take action. And that's why while I was in the hospital, I decided to do my Leaving Cert. And it seemed to help, distracted me. And when I completed, I felt a real sense of achievement. And I liked that feeling. And then after that, I thought, well, why not go to college?
And can I ask you, I'm cutting across a little bit, but I'm just curious as to how did you manage to do your Leaving Cert, given your injuries?
I had a lot of support. So there's a teacher in the National Rehabilitation Hospital who helped me. And I had a scribe who would write out the answers to the Leaving Cert questions.
So you dictated your Leaving Cert?
It was a big learning curve. Yeah, I dictated it, but you know, it distracted me from everything else that was going on.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And it was important for you to get over that particular moment in your life to try and, I suppose, intellectually cope.
Yeah.
And where did that bring you to then? College?
Yeah, so like since the accident, I've gone on to study economics in UCD, history and psychology in DCU, and I finished an honours business degree there a year or two ago. I've started 2 businesses and 1 social enterprise. I've advocated on behalf of disabled people. I've been appointed to a government body by the Minister for Transport. I've helped change regulations at the top level. I've helped to secure more than €3 million to put more wheelchair taxis on Irish roads. I've designed and helped develop an IFTA-nominated, nationally broadcasted TV show to try and change people's perceptions around access issues. I've built a house. I've travelled the world and all while paralysed from the neck down. And I think that... But I think the reason I'm telling you that is because so often people with disabilities are seen as less able.
Yes.
And I don't think that's the case. I think with the right supports and encouragement that, you know, most things are still possible.
You know, anyone who's fully able-bodied would be kind of listening to that list of achievements thinking, God, I wish I was able to do half of them or a third of them. How did you manage to do all of this? Because I presume, given where you're at, it's a hectic day. I mean, you were probably up early. I mean, just to get everything together in a typical day. Can you talk us through it a little bit, that?
Yeah, sure. So my average day would start at maybe 6 a.m. I might have a nurse in to help with toileting stuff. And then at 8 a.m., I'd have 2 PAs in to help me to get up, washed and dressed. I think I'm the only guy in the country who gets into the shower every morning with 2 gorgeous women and is not happy about it. And so then I work away from home in the mornings and generally get to meetings into the office in the afternoons.
Has technology been very good for you in terms of being able to communicate and work on computers and so forth?
Yeah, it's been a huge help. So I operate the computer. I have a little dot on my forehead and I use my head to control the mouse. And I'm as fast as anyone on a computer. I can pretty much do what I need to do.
Tell me a little bit about the 2 businesses you mentioned that you were...
Yeah, so this came about, I got stranded at the side of the road a couple of years back on a night out and in the rain trying to get a wheelchair taxi. And I had 2 friends with me. And I remember sitting by the side of the road and thinking, these 2 friends, regular taxi after regular taxi, went by and thinking these friends could have got any of those taxis, yet I couldn't. So I thought this was crazy. But that bad experience has led me on the most amazing business and advocacy work. So more than 50% of people with a disability won't travel for fear of something going wrong.
It's a big number.
1 in every 2.
Yeah, that's a big number.
So what we're trying to do with the business, we want to solve that problem. We want to give people their mojo back.
Yes.
And Mobility Mojo business, it's like a TripAdvisor, but with a focus on accessibility. We give people the information they need to plan and choose accessible hotels, restaurants, pubs, attractions, and transport, which suits their needs. And we're a tech company. We're changing the way accessible travel is delivered. Now, Noel, my co-founder, and myself and the team, we've been working around the clock the last couple of weeks and months, and glad to say the new site, mobilitymojo.com, has just gone live. Yeah. So check it out, and I know they'd kill me if I didn't give it a plug.
Yeah,
so
no, you're dead right, and that's congratulations on that. It's a great new business. All right, let me ask you about the...
Also, sorry, Ryan, if you're a business in the hospitality sector, it's free to sign up and sign up through the site.
And tell people how good you are.
We'd be delighted to promote your business for you if it's good accessibility.
All right. Yeah, and good accessibility is where we're going now, because this experiment, which involves Kathryn and Kevin, we're going to talk to them in just a second. Why did you want to do this?
Well, I think I've seen all the problems firsthand. I've lived on both sides of the fence. I didn't have a clue about any of these issues before I was injured, and by doing this, we wanted to give the general public a practical insight into these issues. You know, by doing something really, really simple, just getting from A to B, what most people do on a daily basis. So that's where it came from. We had a documentary a year or 2 ago doing something similar, but what I felt that lacked was that we didn't really offer solutions to these problems, which is what's different about this.
And do you think it's important to have well-known people doing this in a wheelchair for an afternoon versus people who are actually in a wheelchair who nobody necessarily knows coming in to talk about it? What's the benefit in having, say, well-known people doing it?
Yeah, you're never going to recreate life with a disability, but by doing these small things with the likes of Kevin and with Kathryn, it opens up the media doors, you know, and it gives the general public then that insight
that you mightn't be able to do otherwise.
You wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk to our friends, ladies and gentlemen, Kathryn Thomas and Kevin Kilbane joining us now. Let's say hi. Well, you're both very welcome, and
Thank you.
You know, this was a challenge that was placed before you. Kathryn, how did you feel when it was placed before you? What did you think about it?
I was really excited about it because I'd met Stephen a couple of times, and actually the last time I met Stephen was at Holiday World when I was there, he was there, and he told me all about, you know, his new concept of, you know, highlighting it. I just thought it was a brilliant idea, again, something that I'd never thought about before, you know.
Yes.
So I'd never thought about being in a wheelchair. I've never, you know, thought about navigating Dublin like that. I'm somebody who is on the go all the time. My fitness, you know, all of that is hugely important to me. So I just said it was going to be totally new to me, and I wanted to kind of see what it would be like.
All right, and we're going to see some of the results of that in a moment. Kevin, how about you? Why did you decide that this was a challenge worth taking?
Well, I think you know yourself, right? I mean, I have a daughter with a disability, different sort of disability, of course. So when it was put to me, I just thought, yeah, I'll give it a crack. I was probably like Kathryn. It was like almost like a bit of a challenge, a bit of a laugh. It was a bit like that. Little did I realise what was about to come my way, but it was certainly a huge eye opener for me. That was the thing that hit me even immediately. I was in the chair for less than 30 seconds, and I was facing obstacles straight away. And then, as it went on through the morning, it was it was certainly a huge eye opener for me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was looking at these clips during the week, and I was quite stunned by the ignorance of people like me and like everyone in terms
and
of
me.
About the experience of it's hard not to sound patronising, you know. But we at the same time we do have to say my eyes were opened, and I hope that's the whole point of this, Stephen. Is you want eyes to open where they previously closed.
Just to get people thinking about these issues.
All right. Well, let's begin with you, Kathryn, because we'll talk about. Yeah, you were given a task to go from where to where. Just remind us.
I was given a task to go from Jervis Street to Merrion Square in an hour, and I opened the envelope and I went to myself, right, how long would that take me to walk? Probably doing it at a good old pace, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I said an hour, that's kind of doable. And I think the guns are in good shape. And I was like, you know, good upper body strength, no problem to me. And I was kind of trying to navigate it through in my head.
I'm not going to lie to you. I thought because your fitness head, I thought that this would be no issue to you.
And I'm really competitive as well, so I was like, I have to do this.
And then I saw what happened. I thought, okay, well, why don't you talk us through your first moment here?
The first bit I had to do was go over the Millennium Bridge, which was a joy because that was easy, it was new, it was modern.
Because we're onto curbs here.
Yeah, this is me in Temple Bar.
Yeah.
And, you know, Temple Bar, everyone thinks cobblestones, but you see the lip on the pavement there that it's dipped. Yeah. And I had seen, from the other side of the road, I had seen a dad push his baby in a pushchair up over it, no problem.
Yeah.
So I kind of took it, and I was there for about 10 minutes trying to get up onto it, turning backwards, trying to do that way, finding another bit of a lip. And you'd think when the lip is dipped that much, and the chair would be able to, with the momentum, you'd be able to move forward. But it's nigh on impossible. Yeah. And I don't know if I had more experience, you know, are you able to navigate it better? It was just a nightmare. And it was, you know, a guy just turned around or walked past, saw what was happening, and we were shooting on a long lens at the time. He didn't recognise me, and he just said, "Oh, listen, do you want a hand?" And I said, "That'd be great, brilliant."
But you had to count on the kindness of a stranger, and that's presumably
and that was one of the that was after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was going, how in the name of God do you navigate the whole of Temple Bar with, like, you know, all the cobblestones
everywhere? Well, let's keep going, because in the next clip you'll see you trying to do just that, navigating away, but this time I think we're into the bins. And look at this, look at that
so
big,
this was
dirty
on the
wheelie
way
bin.
up to Dame Street, and I had navigated around a couple of bar stools, and then this was in the way, and you're going, and I was so intimidated because I didn't know whether to make a go for it. Do you come off the footpath? If I came off the footpath, do I fall out? Do you know?
Yeah.
And then I just asked this girl who was passing by, you know, would she help me? And again, people, I have to say, people were so fantastic.
Yes.
You know, and it wasn't, do you know, it wasn't that they felt, what I felt was they didn't feel sorry for me, but they just felt as irritated as I was with the obstacles that I was coming, you know, having to challenge.
I was thinking earlier on of that bin on that path in that part of town at night time.
Yeah.
Why would you bother going out?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, Stephen, what are you thinking about all that sort of thing?
Well, you can see why more than 1 in 2 people with a disability won't travel.
Wouldn't bother. I mean, look at that, and that's in broad daylight.
Exactly, yeah.
But even the practice of being allowed to put a big wheelie bin that size out on a path that size, there just seems to be no rhyme or reason to it all. Let's keep going with another clip with you, Kathryn. This time you're heading towards the roadworks and again,
Well, there's roadworks all over Dublin City, you know,
Yes,
and I know
well,
people
Dublin
have talked about it, but I
is
didn't
mad.
realise how many there were. So I tried to take a shortcut here
That's
around the tree.
That's you going into a tree there.
Yeah, I tried to take a shortcut because the green man was flashing, right? So I didn't have any idea until now how long the green man stays green until the orange man is orange until it goes red. Like, I had no idea, so I took a shortcut because I was trying to count the seconds of, like, would I be stuck in the middle of the road?
Yes.
You know, because again, the other thing is when you get into the middle of the road, you don't even realise when you're crossing over the roads. Generally, there's a slight slant and there's a slight slant the other way.
Right.
So, so that I just didn't understand. I didn't know whether I was going to get stuck, you know.
Yes.
And the other thing that I'll say about the footpaths, and I myself and Kevin have had a chat about this. All of the paths are on a slope.
Yeah.
Do you know, they're all on a slope,
Yes.
kind of that way. So you're working one arm all the time. Like, you're working on one side all the time.
It's going towards the road constantly. So if you're obviously in the left-hand side of the road,
Yes.
you're kind of keeping your left arm working, trying to keep yourself off the road. And the constant thing that was in my head was, is the wheel going to hit the pavement? Because you're going to topple as soon as you hit the pavement.
Yeah.
So you're constantly fighting against that uneven ground.
And then you get to, of all places, Trinity College, Dublin, which seems to be...
I know, I went through the hallowed gates of Trinity. My parents, they would have been so proud.
Oh, you got there.
They've been dying for me to do it for years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, went into Trinity thinking more cobbles, and I thought that you would set this up so, you know, having me go through more cobbles, Temple Bar first, then into Trinity.
Yeah.
Wheel
Let's have a
myself
look at
in
this.
through the front gates of Trinity, and
Yes.
it was just like this path. It was amazing. I had never known that it was there, but they've adapted, you know, one of the oldest colleges in the world. Oh, I don't know, I might be wrong in saying that, but Trinity. But again, like, look, such an iconic building, such a part of Dublin.
But they've
and
married
they
the
have
two, haven't they?
Totally, and really seamlessly as well.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
There's wheelchair ramps into everything. But all that it doesn't take away from the building at all. And I think that's the thing. You know, nobody wants, you know, that people to dismantle Dublin and put it back together again. It's all about
Which
these.
appears to be happening.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
But it's just small. It's what you're trying to say all the time. It's just small changes, and for people to notice the small things that
Steve,
would
what
make a
did you
difference.
make of Kathryn's experience there?
It was very interesting. I mean, the thing with Trinity there is everyone benefits for that.
Sure.
Good accessibility affects all of us at some point in our lives. A parent with a buggy going through Trinity, or, you know, an older person who's a little unsure on their feet, or even a woman in high heels. Much easier if you have a nice, smooth path.
That can
like
be a disability at times.
But they haven't compromised the historic look or feel of the place at all.
Yes.
And it shows you what can be done even in the oldest places in the country.
You can do the two. The two can coexist.
Exactly,
you know, beauty
yeah,
and
yeah.
practicality is essentially. Well, Kevin, your task was to do what exactly?
Yeah, I had to get from Wolfstone Square to the Aviva Stadium using public transport.
You're right.
And yeah, I said before, immediately there was obstacles along the way. So
Yes.
immediately I was going to get onto the Lewis to start with, buy a ticket, then get onto Lewis.
Why don't we go
off the
there together?
platform.
Because
Yeah.
you seriously
Yeah.
had quite the journey.
One thing I noticed as well, the level I was at in the chair was the eye line of the actual screen. You couldn't really see it because it was actually pointing upwards, so you couldn't see that initially. And then when I'd bought the ticket, once I managed actually to buy it and put the credit card in, it was absolutely packed. This wasn't rush hour. This was about 10:30, 11 o'clock. So you can understand how busy it actually was at this time compared to maybe in rush hour.
Yes.
8, 9 o'clock. I don't know how anyone in a wheelchair would be able to get off and on the Lewis. But I have to say that it was easier from an accessibility point of view because the platform was level with the carriages. So getting off and on was okay. It was just the intimidation from the people that were around me at that time.
Looking up, for a man who's looking down most of the time, I presume you were looking up a lot.
Looking
that
up,
must have been quite unusual for you.
Well, it was, and I mean, I probably described it during the challenge. It was almost like childlike again. You feel very intimidated, very vulnerable. That's what it felt like to me when I was certainly at the level I was at in the chair. And luckily, again, maybe as what Kathryn said, people moved, they gave me a little bit of space, so I was able then to get onto Lewis, and then I was able to try to get up to Connolly Station.
Right, let's go to Connolly Station then and see what confronted you there. Talk to me about that.
Well, I got off, immediately get off, and all you could see around me was steps, so I had to then try and find my way to the lift. And as you can see there, immediately the lift's out of use. So with that being out of order, then I'm having then to try to get it into my head, I've got to find a different way to try, if not get onto the platform, I have to then try and find maybe a different way to try to get up to the Aviva. So
you wouldn't want to be in a hurry. I mean,
No,
when
well,
you see,
that's-
imagine the disappointment of that sign going lift broken. You're going, I have to.
totally.
You know.
I mean, I said that to Stephen. It's almost as if you're having to plan 24 hours ahead constantly. And I'm the most unorganised man ever. I mean, seriously unorganised. I've serious issues about getting myself from day to day, never mind, you know, week to week, hour to whatever it would be. So to constantly think that following day ahead, whether or not I've got to organise taxis, whether or not I've got to organise...
Let me ask Stephen, is that something that you have to constantly be aware of?
There's a lot of planning, all right. Now, one story that strikes me, jumped out, we had someone in touch recently, a woman in Donegal, like it's not just a Dublin, it's much worse outside of Dublin.
I would imagine.
There was a woman who got in touch, she was a wheelchair user, MS, and her husband had just died. And she got in touch because she was panicking that she couldn't get a wheelchair taxi to get to the funeral of her own husband. Now we sorted her out, thankfully, but like, this is Ireland 2017.
Yeah.
These are the types of problems that people
What
face.
is the availability of wheelchair-friendly taxis in whatever, about the city, the country? Is there a rate you can tell us about, a percentile?
Yeah, so about 6% of the fleet here. 6%. Compared to 80% in the UK.
Yeah. Why do they have 80% in the UK and we have 6? What does that...
It came about in 1988. There was political will
There's legislation
in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham, the large cities, to make black cabs fully accessible.
Yeah.
Don't think there was the same will here.
Well, because we don't have the uniform nature of the taxi, which is kind of a pity in itself in some ways.
Yeah.
But you don't think there's a political will? I mean, is that something you're lobbying for?
I sit on the Taxi Advisory Committee.
And are they not listening to you?
No, they are. I mean, we're making good progress,
You are.
but it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, these things happen over a long period.
All right. Let's go back to Kevin. We've just hit the lift. It's telling you that's not working. You're thinking, got to get a cab. Let's talk about this,
again,
this clip here.
Stephen's highlighted the issue. So I went to the front of the taxi rank. Taxi driver was great.
Yeah.
Really, really friendly, really hospitable. Just asked him the question, could I get a taxi with wheelchair access? And the immediate reaction was, you might have to wait a little while, half an hour, whatever it would be, but I'll do my best for you. So he got out of his cab, actually. He looked down the rank that was further on down the line, made a call, and there was none available. So, again, another roadblock along the way.
Just to remind ourselves, you've got to the lift
out
broken.
Of order.
You're now reversing, you're heading down to the taxi rank. They're saying you'll have to wait 20 minutes, half an hour.
At least, yeah.
Or we'll try and get one for you.
Yeah.
Nothing shaking there. Where do you go next?
I went to the bus.
Right. Well, of course, if God loves a trier, he's loving you on this one, right?
He did, yeah. It was incredible. So I went down to the quays, I wheeled down to the quays to get the bus.
And Dublin bus would it be well got here? I mean, here you are.
Dublin bus, yeah. So
what
I
get The ramp is broken?
So the wheelchair access ramp was broke, so
he had to close the door?
He had to close the door, and he said to me, just wait on 2 minutes. The 15B will be coming along in 2 or 3 minutes down the line. So I'm waiting.
And there's the 15B.
That's the 15B going past me. Hands in the air, waving to him. Doesn't see me, drive straight past. And again, you couldn't write it. The things, and again, it's almost as if we have tried to script it to try and make it look as
and none of this was staged. I mean, you didn't kind of dress it up for us just to kind of make us all feel bad about ourselves.
No, not at all. Right, honestly, no. It was everything. So many obstacles along the way. And what essentially I was asked the question when I started: how long would it normally take you? Now, I'm a keen runner myself. I could run to the Aviva Stadium 20 minutes.
Yes.
Less, maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour max from where I was. And here I am, 2.5, 3 hours later. I've probably gone maybe less than a mile, less than a kilometre down the road, and I'm still trying to find a way to get over there.
Right, Stephen, what are we to do with this information? We are fortunate enough not to need a wheelchair to go home tonight, but this is the whole point of inviting Kevin and Kathryn in to talk about it with you and us. What are we to take from their experience?
Look, many of these issues could be corrected if people just thought about them. We're looking for everyone in the country, including businesses, councils, communities, the wider public, to make one simple change to improve accessibility. We've more than 150 suggestions on challengeaccess.ie. And I have to thank TTM Healthcare, Loose Horse Productions, Kevin and Kathryn as well. They've been great, as none of this would have been possible without them.
What did you guys take from your experience?
Well, I said probably earlier on, it's more the organisation. Getting day-to-day organised, the amount of time that it would take you to a relatively short distance that we would take for granted.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that struck me, the amount of time it would take me to maybe go, 2 or 3 miles up the road, wherever it would be, 2 or 3 kilometres, and I am I am constantly hitting, I would say, roadblocks.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, constant.
And there has to be room
things
for
in the way.
spontaneity. Yes, you know, if you're a wheelchair user, there has to be a certain amount of planning and organising and all that, but there has to be some level of spontaneity that does make, you know, if you want to just go for a pizza or go to the cinema or something, that it shouldn't be as difficult as it is.
Yeah.
That's and the other thing that I would like to say is that don't feel sorry for people with a disability or people who are in a wheelchair. You know, I know this guy, Stephen does not want anybody. I mean, he'd be raging if anybody, you know, felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, I think, and certainly I felt it, because I didn't know, I thought people were going to feel sorry for me, you know, when they saw me. But there's a real difference I've learned between pity and compassion. And people want to help you. You know, they want, you know, I have compassion towards Stephen, that he was in an accident that could have happened to me, that could have happened to Kevin, that could have happened to you.
Yes.
And there's a real difference between, that's kind of what I really got out of it. Don't feel sorry for somebody, but like it's totally fine to have compassion towards them. And there's a difference, I think.
Tally with that, Stephen?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no one wants to feel pity, you know.
Okay, well, look, this is, I hope, has been a useful lesson for people. I think to kind of businesses and homes that can keep an eye on what they can do, and Taxi Federation and people in between. And you've got a long road to go, but good luck with it. Thanks for coming to see us. And thanks, guys, for taking part in the experiment tonight. Thank you. Kevin, Kathryn and Stephen. And to see more of how Kevin and Kathryn got on and to find out more about Stephen's campaign, you can check out challengeaccess.ie. All right, well, thanks again for that.